All right, on the phone right now we have I don't know. I don't know if I could call him one of the greatest guitar players on the planet, but I think I don't think he's from this world. Even though his partner is known for surfing with the alien, I do believe, Steve Vai, that you have played with other alien life forms, and they may have taught you some things just from listening to you over the years.
Well, thank you. Yes, I've had the opportunity to jam with some extraterrestrials. That's for sure.
Yeah, but enough about David Lee Roth. Let's talk about what you're doing right now. And SatchVai Band, you guys kind of this. I imagine came out of the G3 tours, and then you already had a relationship with Joe Satriani. He was your guitar teacher at one point. I think the last time we talked, you said that dynamic is not really there so much anymore, but now it sounds like you guys are gelling into like an actual band. Like there's a commitment here to keep playing together. Was that the plan to begin with, or did this just all of a sudden you guys say, hey, why don't we just keep going?
Well, it's kind of like a little fantasy we had since we were teenagers. I was 12 years old when I started taking lessons from Joe, and he was like 15 or 16, and he was great even then. And those 3 years of lessons were like my my secret weapon, so to speak. And the lessons were sacred. And Joe was always a figure of excellence to me. And all through the years, we've stayed in touch. We've been friends. We've recorded on various projects together. We then we started touring when Joe introduced G3, and that was great. And all the G3 things were kind of like three bands, three guitar players, and each guy would come out and play a set, and then they take a break down the set. Another guy comes out, and then we all get together and jam at the end. So Joe's son, ZZ Satriani, is a great filmmaker. He made all our videos.
Yes.
And he had this pull to make a film, because when Joe would tour all through the years, ZZ would be there. They always traveled as a family. So he got to see this kind of life as he grew up. And he wanted to document it, and he thought it would be a good idea if there was sort of like a G3 anniversary celebration, 30 years, to kind of cap it off. And so we put a little G3 tour together, the original, with myself, Joe, and Eric Johnson. And we didn't have a lot of time because of schedule, so we only did a small handful of shows. But Joe and I wanted to continue. And we did, but it was more like a G2. We still had two bands, and we did a North American tour, and then we were going to do more shows, and then we just figured, well, why don't we actually write some music so we have some new pieces that we can play instead of just jamming on classic rock songs at the end of the show. And next thing I know, I get these few tracks from Joe, The Sea of Emotion, and they were great. And that led to, hey, why don't we make a record and actually create one band? And, it's about time. And so, it all kind of happened very organically and beautifully. I mean, it just unfolded. And the big challenge was, through it all for the last 2 years, basically, we've been juggling various projects. Like I was out supporting my solo record, and then the G3, and then I joined Beat, which is
yes.
the 80s King Crimson celebration with Adrian Belew, Tony Levin, and Danny Carey. And Joe was out with Sammy Hagar doing the best of both worlds. And so we're trying to figure out how we're going to make a record and schedule touring when we have all this stuff going on, because like these tours were big. I mean, I did 64 shows in North America with Beat. Wow. And then we went to South America and Japan. And 2 days after this tour with Joe, I head to Europe for a European Beat tour. So we're juggling all this stuff, but somehow we got it done, and we made a record, and we started to release some singles. And the great thing about this show now is it's very integrated with the guitars, like whereas before we were trading riffs, now we're playing melodies together, we're doing harmonies, we're jamming together in a more organized way. And the show is kind of it's engaging because it moves quick, because the whole band comes out and we do like our 3 songs that we've released so far from the record. And then Joe will leave the stage and I'll do a couple of songs and he comes out and we do a song together and then he does a few songs and we do that kind of thing. And it's been working so well. It's so interesting. I was doing an interview yesterday and I get asked this question occasionally and it was, what's your favorite tour? Actually the question was, who do you like playing with the most in your career? Huh. And I thought about it for just a blank, and it's Joe, because this goes way back to when we were teenagers, and my lessons turned into these jam sessions in his backyard where it was just me and him with electric guitars and no amplifiers, sitting back to back for hours and hours. Like one time we clocked in 6 hours, and I was, wow. I'm like 13, 14, and when you do that with somebody, you have to be very present, and that's where I learned how to really listen, because when you're listening intimately to the other person, then your ability to respond in an appropriate way just matures, And when we're on stage now and we're just intimating music together, it's just so satisfying. And I know it's engaging for the audience. So, yeah, this show is, if you like this kind of thing, you don't want to miss it.
Yeah. Well, back in those days when you guys were jamming like that, was there like one specific habit that Joe taught you or a philosophy that Joe taught you that you're still using now with him on stage in front of audiences?
Well, I mean, if you can imagine, when I showed up at Joe's house, I had a guitar with 4 strings on it and a pack of strings. I knew nothing. So much of what he taught me is baked into my technique. I mean, Joe was the consummate teacher. He's like, no, your intonation is bad. You got to do it like this, and these are the scales. I mean, everything. The funny thing was, I knew more music theory when I was 12 than most kids, because I studied. I loved music, and I had this incredible music theory class in high school because I wanted to learn how to compose. And I did. I was actually composing before I started playing the guitar, and then I heard Led Zeppelin, and everything went away. But when I did my lessons with Joe, he helped me connect the dots between all the theory I already understood to the guitar. But he was always a class act. It's hard to explain. Even when he was a teenager, when Joe put his fingers on the instrument, even if he's just like showing me an exercise or something, what came off his fingers always sounded like music, and even more so now. So that had a huge impact on me. I mean, everything, just the way he touched the instrument, the way he chose melodies, this was very inspirational for me. Now, we have 2 different kind of musical minds. We're kind of attracted to little different things. So those lessons were paramount for me.
It sounds like really he like the way you describe it, he had a deep respect for the instrument and the music, and that kind of carried that along. He did.
Yeah, he did. And he just had it. You know what I mean? And because he was such a great teacher, he shared it completely. You
mentioned ZZ. And yesterday I was watching that video for your song "Dancing," and and I can see where you mentioned he's been with Joe on tours and he's seen this stuff, and obviously he's seen a good deal of the business because who's the guy playing the
Brendan Small?
Yeah, Brendan Small. That's it. hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, isn't he hilarious?
Yeah.
You should have seen him on the set. I mean, that guy, he's obviously a pro.
Oh, yeah. I'd like to see a nice blooper reel because I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that didn't make it to the actual video. That's hilarious.
He was so on. Yeah, I mean, a blooper reel. Just his comedy is so instant and inspired. It's hilarious just being with him.
Yeah, and it's great. And I love the song because it's got that I love Latin music, and it's definitely got that Latin feel to it. The Latin beat to it, which is fantastic. And also the video itself kind of reminds me, to bring up David Lee Roth again, some of those early David Lee Roth videos or those later Van Halen videos where it was kind of like a narrative.
A little campy.
Yeah, it was like a weirdness of narrative, like leading up to the actual song and stuff. It's just hilarious. I encourage everyone to take a look at it. It's really funny.
Back in the 80s, when we made videos, they usually had like a little intro clip.
Yeah, you needed like a little build up.
We went back to old school.
Yeah, it was great. It definitely has that feel to it. You know, I mentioned David Lee Roth. You've played with so many people. Alcatraz, and I remember in the 80s you showed up on a Pill album with Johnny Rotten.
Yeah,
and which is so you've played with such a wide array of artists.
Yeah, I was very lucky. I had a lot of the Whitesnake gig was great.
Yeah,
and I had a lot of great opportunity.
Is there an artist that you were able to play? And I know, like a lot of times, if you're just kind of in a session, you're not really meeting the artist. You're just kind of laying something down. But is there an artist that you played with that kind of opened up your mind to a whole other avenue of how to approach music?
Oh, yeah. Not just music, but the whole business. And it was Frank Zappa.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I started working for Frank when I was 18 and right here in Boston at Berkeley. And I moved out to California when I was 20, joined the band, toured with him for 3 years. And that was a master class. I mean, I was so young. And, at that age, you're very impressionable. And Frank was a master. He was an explosion of freedom and always creating, with a laugh, And he was doing all of these things that resonated deeply with me. Like there was comedy in his music. There was crazy guitar playing, unbelievable musicianship, composition. He was something else.
Yeah, he demanded the best out of everybody he worked with.
Well, one of Frank's greats, one of his brilliances is he had the ability to kind of recognize somebody's potential even more than they do. So what he always seemed to look for in artists was something that an artist can do that was, sort of extraordinary, but maybe not accessible in, regular pop music. So he would find these guys that had something, and then he would pull it out of them, and then he would use it as a sort of a color in his painting palette. And that's why all of his records sound so different, and there's such incredible musicianship. I think the quirky kind of talent that I had was I was fascinated with high information music and being able to play it on the guitar. So I would play all these Zappa melodies, which certainly didn't belong on the guitar, And so he and I had a good ear for transcribing and applying it to the guitar. So he had me do things that were just ridiculous, that you would never be asked to do anyplace else. Like he had this one piece of music, it was a 7-minute piece of music where he recorded it live and he just told a story. And when he was telling it, he was speaking in Sprechstein, which is kind of like in between singing and speaking, kind of goes like this, and then it goes all yeah. And there's notes and all that. So I said, you know what? I can transcribe your vocal notes and double it. Wow. And he's like, go right ahead. And who's going to do something like that and put it on a record? So that was a great experience.
You know, he's a guitar player who rarely gets mentioned. You know, when people are talking about the greatest guitar players in the world, you know, there's always, you know, Jimi Hendrix and Eddie Van Halen and, you know, you and Joe and Jimmy Page and all these classic artists. He's rarely recognized for what an amazing guitar player he was. The first CD I ever bought was Shut Up and Play Your Guitar because I was just mesmerized by all three of those CDs. I would sit and listen to it for hours.
He was he was like a specialized kind of a guitarist, you know. He wasn't like a studio guy, or I mean, if you he did this one interview where this kind of might spell it out. He says, "I give all the hard guitar parts to Steve Vai, and I do the soloing, you know, because I guys like me just have a different kind of a approach where Frank is very visceral and very intense, and he's like unapologetic the way he plays, you know." And he goes and what you were saying about those records, you know, Frank's solos would go like 8-10 minutes sometimes. And you think, boy, that's a lot of notes, you know, and it's a lot of guitar. But when you sit and you listen to those 3 guitar records, the Shut Up and Play Your Guitars, you really, it is a zone. And I transcribed all that. There's a book out that I transcribed. It's got the drum parts, Vinny's drum parts, and Frank's guitar parts. Yes, and when you indulge in that music, you definitely get the payoff.
It to me, it was always like listening to that music unwound my brain somehow, but then twisted it in another direction that tangled it all up. It was just amazing.
Yeah, very
stuff.
Frank.
Yeah. Well, Steve Vai, it's been a pleasure talking with you again. And SatchVai Band, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Leader Bank Pavilion, tomorrow night here in Boston, surfing with the Hydra Tour. We're looking forward to seeing you guys and to seeing you in action. And any word yet on like a release, like a full album release from you guys?
Well, it'll be soon. I know Joe and I handed it in before we left on tour, and they're just kind of putting it together. So I don't have the exact release date yet, but it's one of my favorite records I ever made. It is so great. It's such a mixture of the two of us.
Does it have more dancing? You need more dancing.
Dancing.
Yes.
Awesome. Use the plants as a napkin.
Yeah, don't touch the plants. Awesome. Yeah. Well, Steve, thank you very much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.